One of the finest of the canvases painted by the celebrated artist, John Stanley, is An Osage Scalp Dance. The artist, who visited the Osages in the early 1840s, says of this painting, on returning from the scene of strife, they celebrate their victories by a scalp dance. This picture represents the scalp dance of the Osages around a woman and her child, and a warrior is in the act of striking her with his club, his chief springing forward and arresting the blow with his spear. However, the United States never engaged in a general war with the Osages, and it is noteworthy that they were more often our allies in wars with other tribes than our enemies. It was a band of the Osage Scouts who guided General Custer to Black Kettle's camp of Cheyennes in Oklahoma in the winter of 1868 and took part in a much-discussed battle of the Washita, which greatly weakened the power of the hostiles. The lands which the Osages now hold were given them when a reservation was established for them in Oklahoma by an act of Congress on July 15, 1870. The land was hilly and regarded as almost worthless, so much so, in fact, that another tribe to whom it was first given refused to live on it. So the Osages, who, by this time, seemed to have lost their warlike qualities and who seemed unlikely to protest, were given this tract of approximately 1.5 million acres. By an act of Congress on June 28, 1906, this land was divided among the Osages, then numbering nearly 2,000 persons. At this time, the tribe had to their credit in the United States Treasury more than $8.5 million. They also drew about $100,000 a year for pasturage leases, so that their total annual income per capita was approximately $250. Even at this time, the Osages were known as the richest Indians in the United States. When Oklahoma statehood was declared in 1907, the Osages continued to live a peaceful existence comparatively untouched by outside influences. Then along in 1912 and 1913 oil was discovered on their lands, and almost overnight the Osages became rich beyond their wildest dreams. Then, too, their troubles began. Unaccustomed to this great wealth, the Indians fell prey to all kinds of white tricksters. The culmination of their troubles was the series of mysterious murders which began in 1922 and which have recently been exposed. Apparently unable to get as much of the Osages' wealth, and the wealth of the Osages is constantly increasing, the last announcement was that the tribe will pay $2,400 each for the first quarter of 1926 instead of $1,400 as was expected. By trickery as he desired, the white man resorted to violence. So although their wealth has brought the Osages considerable happiness, it has brought them sorrow too, just as it did Jackson Barnett, the Creek Indian whose philanthropic and matrimonial troubles were so prominent in the newspapers only a short time ago. But out of all their troubles may come a better day, not only for the Osages but for every Indian in the United States. The Osage case now seems likely to be a history-making one, for recent agitation in the press and in Congress over the Indian question in general may soon result in some sweeping changes in the whole conduct of Indian affairs, and poor Lowe may soon gain the tardy justice which his friends believe he has so long been denied. Just as it did Jackson Barnett, the Creek Indian whose philanthropic and matrimonial troubles were so prominent in the newspapers only a short time ago. But out of all their troubles may come a better day, not only for the Osages but for every Indian in the United States.